Philip Seymour Hoffman, the great Academy Award-winning actor, died over the weekend after a drug overdose. He was actually found with a needle in his arm. We didn't talk much about his death. Certainly Philip Seymour Hoffman in some absolutely excellent movies. I would venture to say one of the greatest American actors of his generation, certainly. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I was interested to read today in the Huffington Post and on CNN that after his death was ruled an apparent drug overdose, police started investigating, well, where did the drugs come from? What are the details of this particular overdose? And now police have made multiple arrests in connection with an investigation that stemmed from the death of actor Philip Seymour Hoffman. According to Lieutenant John Grimple of NYPD, officers executed a search warrant at an apartment building on the 300 block of Mott Street in Lower Manhattan, not very far from our studio, in fact, recovered a quantity of narcotics and made 4 arrests. The New York Times reported that police searched 3 apartments, arrested 3 men and 1 woman, and found 350 bags of heroin. The identities of the suspects have not been released. Initially, a tip led police to the apartment building, and the TMZ is reporting that the tip came from a heroin user who says that he had the same drug dealer as Philip Seymour Hoffman. Okay, so why is this interesting to me? This is interesting to me because immediately I ask myself, does the average overdose death in New York City lead to this level of an investigation? And the answer is absolutely not. It will make little difference to the suppliers of these drugs that some neighborhood drug dealer was busted. Essentially, this investigation will have almost no effect on the so-called war on drugs. This is simply, whoever was arrested is merely a cog in the black market, well-oiled machine of the drug trade. And it is yet more evidence of the kind of disproportionate, arbitrary, and capricious nature of the war on drugs, and how disproportionately those who have money and typically are not minorities have, even in death, their overdose, their involvement with the drug trade leads to such different activity than when, I don't know, some black kid in the Bronx is found in an alley as opposed to an expensive Lower Manhattan apartment, dead of an apparent drug overdose. It only highlights to me the incredible inequality that exists with the war on drugs.
Right. And just overall, I mean, I can't believe that's the discussion that people think we should be having. Where the drugs came from is completely moot. It's just...
Well, it's moot. I want to clarify. The specific local dealer where the drugs came from is moot, given that the entire system funds and supports where they really come from, which is typically from other countries and people making a ton of money.
Right. This specific small instance in which some small-time, of course, drug dealer handed this stuff to Philip Seymour Hoffman. But at the same time, he was said to have bought about $1,000 worth of drugs. Your average person on the street is not going to be spending that kind of money. So they probably thought that, well, perhaps because this is at such a high level and there's so much money here in these transactions, maybe this could lead to something big.
I understand what you're saying, but in the grand scheme of things, in New York City, $1,000 heroin buy is not really that much. Yeah, it's probably more than the $50 that many people are buying in Lower Manhattan from this same dealer, but we're not talking about a necessarily huge bust. I mean, $1,000, it's $1,000, and to Philip Seymour Hoffman, it's not that much. But it is very, very interesting, and we're actually tomorrow we'll be talking to Professor Ernest Drucker about the war on drugs and incarceration and so many of the issues that go along with this. Let's take a break. DavidPakman.com, the blue banner at the top of the page that takes you to our Indiegogo campaign. I'm sure you know about that by now. After the break, very, very exciting announcement about that campaign.